Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
The Alabama football field back out on the practice field inside this afternoon for BCS Bowl practice number 2. The Crimson Tide will be working through Friday before breaking for the Christmas weekend. They'll then return to practice on December 28th and work in Tuscaloosa through the 3rd of January before heading down the Big Easy. Most of the practices probably will be held inside. The first 2 have been. Nick Saban says that's for an obvious reason.
Well, if you're going to fight in the North Atlantic, you try to train in the North Atlantic. That's what Woody used to always say, you know. But I guess we could go outside and put our long johns on and, you know, worry about wind conditions and all that stuff and then go play in a dome. If you were playing in a dome, where would you practice?
And with that, we say good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV. Our sponsor, as always, Buffalo Rock. So once again tonight, ice cold Pepsi Cola, courtesy of Buffalo Rock, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm Gary Harris, and Rodney, Alabama, back to practice finally. It seems like it was forever. You have to remember the first full practice, or the last full practice before yesterday was the Thursday before the Auburn game. They then had a walkthrough on Friday, played the game, and didn't practice again until Monday. But you've been out there the last couple of days. I mean, obviously there's some injuries from the season, but all in all, it looks like everybody's rested, revived, and ready to go.
Yeah, and you look at them there from yesterday, Gary, and I thought that they came out, they seemed to have some energy and enthusiasm, and you know, again, you mentioned the injuries, but when you look back at it, it's really not that bad of a situation. Barrett Jones out there practicing. D. Hart is in a black jersey, but practicing, although he has been redshirted this year. The 2 Quanjo brothers riding bikes today, Gary, stationary bikes. They were dressed in full pads, though. So, again, Alabama's in pretty good shape as they open practice.
You know, you'll never play in a bigger game than a BCS championship game. That's what every school in the country, you know, aspires to. Alabama and LSU will play in that game, but even though that on the horizon, Nick Saban said Monday following practice that this week at least, it's back to basics. It's just like starting training camp. They're going to work on strictly Alabama and not really game plan much for LSU yet.
Well, again, Nick Saban's philosophy is you can overwork. You can over-prepare for a particular game, a particular team, and you have to remember this. Alabama had 2 weeks to prepare for LSU earlier this season. So, again, they've kind of already had a preparation. So they don't need as much time to concentrate on LSU this time. But, you know, Gary, it is a time every year at the beginning of, you remember, go back to 2009 when playing Texas in the national championship game, Alabama spent a lot of time on fundamentals early. So this is kind of a pattern to what they do.
Of course, by next week, I'm sure they'll start really focusing on LSU, and then when they get down to New Orleans, that'll be what it's all about.
Right, and you know, again, the good thing is that I think the time off has really helped them in terms of healing up injuries, giving some guys opportunities to get, you know, get some of that energy and enthusiasm back.
Of course, we'll be covering practice for you in Tuscaloosa and also once the team travels down to New Orleans. We know, Rodney, Coach Saban's got a reputation for being tough and hard-nosed, but you know, from time to time, we've seen it at press conferences, he'll have a little fun with the media. Monday night, he kind of did a little bit of both. I think he got across a message about a couple of players that he wanted to pass along, and at the same time had some fun with reporters about the fact that they didn't realize both Ronald Carswell and Michael Bowman, a pair of wide receivers, had been absent from practice for some time. Here's Coach Saban last night.
I've been counting the days to see how long it would take you guys to figure out there were certain guys that weren't out there, and you guys are slipping because it's been a long time that, you know, Carswell and Bowman have not been out there. You know, they've been suspended for a long time, but shows where you guys put all your time. I mean, somebody's got to tweet it before you realize it, and you're at practice every day. I mean, I'm glad I'm not your editor, or there would be, we would be bah humbugging you right now.
All right, I'm gonna pat my partner Rodney Orr on the back a little bit. You did realize those guys hadn't been out there, but unlike a lot of people in the media, you don't usually go with things until you have some confirmation of it. You realize that Bowman and Carswell had not been at practice. You didn't put anything on your site about it. Now Saban confirms the suspension. Do you think there's a possibility that these guys won't be back at all?
Well, I mean, there's always that possibility, but you certainly want to wait and see till it's official. In fact, Gary, today it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that. Michael Bowman had some comments on his Facebook page saying that he wasn't going anywhere, that he loved it here, he expected to be back, and he didn't understand why all the rumors that he wouldn't be back. So, you know, best things to wait and see.
Good enough. You talked a little bit earlier about the health situation. The guys that are in black jerseys, guys that we expect to be in black jerseys, the Quanjo brothers, D. Hart, you know, they all three had knee injuries. Hart missed the entire season. Quanjo's hurt during the season. There's been some talk on your board. Do you try to bring guys back and play in this game? Probably not likely.
Oh, I certainly wouldn't think so. You know, I know there's been some speculation about D. Hart, but certainly why would you put a guy who hasn't played all season, who's been a redshirt, never played on this level, in a game of this magnitude, suddenly bring him into it after he's been out all season with a knee injury and put the ball in his hands? I doubt Nick Saban would do that.
And Eddie Lacy's still dealing with a turf toe, and they seem to be taking it easy on him, trying to get him as close to 100% as possible.
Well, you know how they've kind of worked it, Gary, throughout the season. They allowed him to start slowly every week, and then as the week went along, they prepared him more in terms of allowing him more of an opportunity to practice, and I think that's probably what you're seeing right here, Gary. They're taking it easy on him. You know, that turf toe is really a thing that can slow you down, especially a running back, and you know, they're taking it easy on him right now. It'll be interesting to see how it goes along. But I think by game time, he'll be okay.
All right, let's change gears for the moment. After a fast start, 7-0, the Alabama men's basketball team has hit a down spell, having lost 3 of their last 4 games. In fact, on Saturday night in Kansas City against Kansas State, they were run and wound up getting beat badly. You know, Rodney, this is a good defensive team. They apply a lot of pressure, but we're seeing again this year, even with some new players coming in, the Achilles heel is inconsistent perimeter shooting. I mean, they just don't make a lot of shots, and when scoring comes tough, even if you're good defensively, if the other team makes a run, it's hard for you to come back, and that's what we've seen against some of these good teams like Dayton and Kansas State. They've fallen behind. They just haven't had the offensive firepower to get back in the game.
Yeah, and you look at those 3 teams that they lost to, Gary, and it looks like to me that probably those 3 teams are pretty good.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, they're going to be teams that
Georgetown,
but you have to win
Kansas
some
State.
of those games
That's
to build your case at the end of the year.
Well, they got another tough one Wednesday night in Birmingham when they take on Oklahoma State, and with that being in the state of Alabama, that's when they really, really need to win and to get back on track as the SEC season is right around the corner. Well, coming up, still on the recruiting trail, and for Tide fans, it's especially sweet because it comes at the expense of Alabama's in-state rival. When Tider Insider TV returns, we'll tell you about the state's top high school running back switching his commitment from Auburn to Alabama. Also, later on in the show, we'll take your phone calls and answer your emails, 205-348-WVUA, that's 348-9882, or you can email us at TITV@WVUATV.com. And still to come, what does Nick Saban think about his offensive coordinator leaving to become a head coach? We'll have that story. Stay tuned. You're watching the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV, presented by Buffalo Rock. Well, welcome back to TITV. On the recruiting trail this week, and a huge commitment came from the University of Alabama football team on Sunday. The rumored switch of the state's top high school running back from Auburn to Alabama did indeed happen. Daphne High School's T.J. Yeldon decommitted from Auburn and will instead attend the University of Alabama. The 6'2", 210-pound Yeldon rushed for 2,196 yards and 32 touchdowns this past season. He was named the MVP of last weekend's Alabama-Mississippi All-Star football game after he rushed for 116 yards and scored 3 touchdowns to help Alabama to a 31-12 victory. He will graduate from high school this month and be able to enroll at UA in January. Now, he issued a statement through his high school coach reading in part, "I want to make an announcement so I can put this behind me and get to work on the things I need to do to prepare for college, both athletically and academically. I'm going to enroll at the University of Alabama in January." He went on to say, "I have a lot of respect for Auburn, the coaches, and all the people there, but at the end of the day, I feel like the University of Alabama is the best situation and fit for me and my family. I am 100% confident with my final decision. I feel great about it, and I'm excited to get started." Well, still to come, Nick Saban on the departure of his offensive coordinator, Jim McElwain, plus could more coaches be leaving? And we'll take your phone calls and answer your emails. 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882 is the number. Or you can email us at TITV@WVUATV.com. We'll be back with more of the program right after this. Well, as you know by now, Jim McElwain is leaving the capstone for the head coaching position at Colorado State, but he will coach Alabama in the BCS championship game. Here's Nick Saban's thoughts on the McElwain situation.
It doesn't affect preparation at all. You know, Mac's going to be here. I did this when I was a defensive coordinator to Cleveland Browns, and you know, I got the head coaching job at Michigan State and coached the last 3 or 4 games of the regular season and 2 playoff games. And You know, the organization was good in supporting me and what I wanted to do, and we'll do the same thing for Jim.
Well, Rodney, it really is a win-win for everybody. First of all, Jim McElwain is not just respected. He's well-liked by the coaching staff and the players. I think they're thrilled for him. And I think they're also excited that he's staying. He's going to see this season through. And hopefully it ends with a national championship for him in Alabama. And what a great way to go into your first head coaching gig as a reigning national champion.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, Gary, and you know, it's a great opportunity for him because he's going to have a lot of recruits that he's going to be going to see in the next month or so, month and 6 weeks. And you know, a lot of those guys are going to be watching the national championship game. Not only will it get exposure for Colorado State, but it also gets Jim McElwain's name out there. And then not only that, but he's also going to be starting to recruit for next year.
That's right.
Drawing kids to their camp and starting to get more exposure for that program. And I think this is a good start for him. And, you know, you really wouldn't expect anything less of Jim McElwain. That's just kind of the type of guy he is.
And what an amazing 4-year run that could, as I said, culminate with a second national championship, as you mentioned to me during the break. He started out his career with a victory over the Tigers in the Dome.
That's right.
He may end it with a victory over the Tigers in the Dome.
Clemson Tigers, the Georgia Dome, started this great run in 2008. Kind of an upset. You remember Clemson was favored in that game.
Absolutely.
So
Big
hopefully
upset.
the same kind of result.
That's right. While McElwain is leaving, it looks like defensive coordinator Kirby Smart is staying. After interviewing for the head coaching position at Southern Mississippi, he withdrew his name from consideration on Thursday. And, in fact, that position has been filled today by another former Alabama assistant, Ellis Johnson, who coached under both Gene Stallings and Mike DuBose. So he's been mentioned, Smart has, with openings at Ole Miss and Texas A&M, interviewed, as we said, at Southern Miss. But, hey, he can take his time and be particular. There's no doubt about that. He is going to have options every season that he stays at Alabama. And like McElwain, it's only a matter of time, I think, before Kirby Smart is a head coach, but he wants to make sure it's a good situation for him. And linebackers coach and assistant head coach Sal Sunseri has been mentioned again as a candidate at the University of Pittsburgh. However, while he has been in the mix, it appears like Pitt is targeting Florida International's Mario Cristobal, the former Miami Hurricane offensive tackle who has done a great job at Florida International. Right now, he looks like he may be in line for that gig. Well, the Southeastern Conference is adding 2 teams and 1 day to the league baseball tournament. Commissioner Mike Slive said Monday that the tournament will now go from 8 to 10 teams, starting with the upcoming season. It will also start on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. Rodney, the obvious reason for that change is Missouri and Texas A&M come in. I don't know if a lot of people realized this when this was announced. I didn't. Baseball teams begin play in the SEC this spring. Missouri and A&M are here. So you go from 12 to 14 teams. That means you go from 8 to 10 teams in the tournament. That means you add an extra day. It becomes a 6-day event. Wow.
And I didn't realize that either. I didn't realize they were joining the conference immediately in baseball. So, you know, Gary, what's interesting, Texas A&M, I don't know anything about Missouri's baseball program.
Texas A&M's good.
But I know Texas A&M's been very good.
It'll make the SEC even stronger. Missouri's not bad either, but they're not Texas A&M's level, but they're a pretty good program. It'll be a lot of fun over there in Hoover, as it always is. All right, time to get to the phones. First up tonight is Vic in Fairfield. Vic, welcome in to Tider Insider TV.
How y'all doing tonight?
Hey, doing well. How are you?
All right, any ideas on potential offensive coordinator for Bama?
You know, Vic, it's been pretty quiet on that front. And I think that's for the fact that Nick Saban isn't really. I'm not saying he's not talking to people. I'm sure he's probably entertaining phone calls and has talked to some people. But the focus he wants right now is to be on finishing off this season. He's all about finishing anyway, finishing off with a national championship. I don't think, now this is my opinion, Ronnie, you might disagree. I don't think there'll be any announcement of a new offensive coordinator until after the BCS championship game.
Yeah, right. I would agree with that. And I think you mentioned you covered that pretty well, Gary. But you remember when Jim McElwain was hired, Vic? I mean, nobody mentioned Jim McElwain. They talked about 10 or 12 other guys, and then all of a sudden a guy on the West Coast breaks a story that Jim McElwain from Fresno State had been hired. So, again, I think a lot of it right now would be speculation.
All right, thanks for the phone call. Let's stay in Tuscaloosa and talk with Joseph. Joseph, what's going on?
What's up, Gary?
Hey,
man. Hey, it's something I want to ask y'all. You know, I just had myself some on the WZA. I saw the Quanjo brothers on the exercise bike. Is there a possibility we might see them a little bit? Because they have played that. I think they had played a little bit during the
All right, Joseph. Yeah, they both were playing until they got hurt, and Cyrus was playing a lot at left tackle. As we said earlier, probably not. I mean, they're on that exercise bike and in a black jersey for a reason. That means they're not ready for contact, and I don't expect to see either one of them play.
Oh, absolutely not. I certainly wouldn't expect it.
All right, let's go to Bessemer and talk with John. John, what's going on, my man? John, you there? John's gone. Wanted to know about Alabama playing Texas A&M next year. Yes, John, they will. and because they'll be in the West Division. Now, the schedule has not been released, but we're hearing that, Rodney, you've talked with some folks that feel like A&M will be coming to Tuscaloosa.
Yep. Again, it has not been
Nothing
finalized,
official.
so we want to be clear on that. But that's the early talk, is that they will be coming to Tuscaloosa, and Alabama may be going to Columbia, Missouri to
It's going to
play
say
Missouri.
we're hearing that Alabama, even though Missouri will be in the East, may play Missouri as well next year.
Right. There's
And
talk of that.
Georgia may go off the schedule,
Right.
even though they were scheduled to come on. So we'll have to wait till the finalized schedule comes out. But we know for sure they'll play Texas A&M because they're in the West Division. All right, more of your phone calls and emails when we come back. The number again, 205-348-WVUA. Give us a call. Lines are open right now. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. All right, we got folks on the telephone, and Rodney, we're going to try to get as many calls in as we can. So let's go back to the phones and talk to Danny over in Anniston. Danny, what's going on?
Yes, my question tonight would be on Deron Carter. Would he be eligible since the semester is over? And if so, what do you think his chances would be to get to play in this championship game?
I don't think he is going to be eligible. There's been no mention of that, so we really haven't checked into it.
We haven't, but I don't think he would play even if he was eligible because he just hasn't played any. But I do think in this situation, with the way I've been told this anyway, that he has to have 2 semesters in a row at UA with passing grades to be eligible to play. So the short answer is, Danny, he's not going to play in that game. But I don't even think he's eligible to play, but I don't think he would play even if he was at this point. All right, let's go to Moundville and talk with Dale. Dale, what's going on?
Not much, guys. Merry Christmas to both of y'all.
Hey,
Thank you,
same
Dale.
to you, Dale.
I'd just like to know, we're sitting at 22 scholarships now. I wonder how many more we'll be able to sign. And another question I have is, do we have any defensive linemen that's kind of the depth chart that might be able to move to the offensive line since we're kind of low on offensive linemen?
All right, first of all, on the recruiting, we can't talk specifically about recruiting. We can tell you that you're allowed to sign 25 in each class. That's a new SEC rule, but there could be some players that are back counters, so they might be able to take a few more than that. As far as the depth chart's concerned, I do think that the offensive line is a concern going forward. There are a lot of defensive linemen on the squad, Rodney. Any chance that some of those defensive linemen could move to offense?
I mean, off the top of my head, I couldn't think of any, Dale, to be quite honest with you. Again, you never know what happens. Sometimes during spring practice, they always have a lot of experimentation. So, it could be an opportunity at that point, but not right now.
All right, real quickly, let's take an email from James in Tuscaloosa. Wants to know, could Jesse Williams, same type of question, be moved from defensive end to nose tackle next season? Well, I guess a lot of that depends on Rodney on who steps up there, but they are losing Josh Chapman, and he's a big, bulky, athletic guy.
I mean, there's always that. You could always use him there probably at spot, but I wouldn't expect him to be there full time. Again, unless you get into a situation where you had to. You've got Brandon Ivory. You're probably going to bring in some guys that, down the road here in this recruiting class that might be able to help you, so we'll see. All
right, up next, several Crimson Tide athletes marched to the sounds of Pomp and Circumstance this past weekend. We'll have the story on Titv. And finally, tonight over the weekend, more than 40 University of Alabama student athletes received their degrees and became University of Alabama graduates. Christopher England, who does a great job for Tide TV, put together this nice piece recapping the graduation event for UA athletes.
It's a phenomenal experience, it's like you're finally done. You've put in the work, you've gone to the tutors, you stayed up late nights, and, you have to deal with the, being on the road, turning assignments and all that, and you're finally done, it's a great feeling.
I came back for my, technically my junior season because, I promised my grandfather before he passed away that I was going to get my college degree. My mom's pretty proud. I'm actually the first person from my family to graduate college. So, that means a lot to me. So I know there's going to be a lot of crying and photography and stuff, so, I'm getting ready for that.
I think for me it's a big accomplishment. I think it is definitely really hard and not everyone can do it, and being able to, like I said, manage my time with rowing and going to school, I'm pretty proud of myself. I think it's a big accomplishment.
Not a lot of people can say they did it, especially being in college for 4 years. It's kind of hard. It's not an easy task to do. So I think it's a great accomplishment.
With the resources that we have here, the guys that help us over there at the Academic Center, I think they do a great job at getting students prepared to graduate and doing everything that it takes to get your schoolwork done. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity that the university has given me, not only as a student but as a football player as well. It's just a great opportunity for me to hopefully start a great career here.
The Alabama Athletic Department sets the student athletes up for success. So if you don't succeed, it's because you did something that you probably shouldn't have. But they set us up, perfectly. To have Bryant Hall, Study Hall, everything is it's wonderful. I talk to recruits about it all the time. I think that's one of the best things about Alabama is we really focus on the student athlete, and I think that's what's really good about our athletic department.
A lot of people think that because I'm an athlete and I'm good at football, that's my number one priority. But I buckled down and I wanted to get that degree, and it feels great to finally have it. I remember being recruited and Coach Saban coming to my house, and he told me, I can promise you 3 things at the University of Alabama. And those things were, you will win a national championship, you will become a great football player and win games, and you will graduate. And those things have came true, and those 3 promises he kept.
Really nice. Hey, Rodney, tomorrow night, Wednesday nights, as always, from 6 to 8 all over the state of Alabama. You can catch our radio show, the Tider Insider Radio program on the Tider Insider Radio Network. We'd encourage you to check your listings for that. Also, it's dinner time for us tonight. Before we do any radio, we're going to the Pottery Grill in Northport. Chow down on some great barbecue. Why don't you join us about 10 or 15 minutes from now. And don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can find it on our website, WVUATV.com. We'll have the full telecast posted later on this evening. For Rodney Orr and our entire TITV crew, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again next week right here on Tider Insider TV.